What's up, guys? Welcome back to the show. I thought it's time for another video. And well, I wanted to speak to those of you guys who have been trying to create a business on the side while you have a job or a big client. And sometimes it feels like your time is quite stretched thin and, can be really difficult to create that transition from I have a job or I'm doing this thing for, where I put all my time and energy into I create that small project or that thing that starts to bring some extra income on the side, where I can outlive my passions to the fullest, where I can test anything and nobody can tell me whatever. And, that step, there's a first step that is here for those of you guys who actually are curious to create something more in your life. And that step is quite crucial, and it's one of the most difficult ones to make. So for those of you guys who have been attempting or trying to create that, kudos for attempting. It's pretty tough. However, with consistency, if you stick to this, you'll actually make it, right? And so here's the first step, the first milestone from I have a job, I'm doing one thing, or even I don't have a job, right? Basically, from one occupation to creating that little side project where there's one person, one potential client who is paying you for your services, right? That you offer, that you made up. Yeah. So there's this moment that you need, and this moment is 30 minutes a day to work on your business. Okay, this is this milestone where you say, ooh, from I do, my usual stuff where I take care of my family, take care of myself, take care of my friends, my well-being, look at my job, make sure my finances are okay, where I take care of everything in my life that needs to function, maybe my health, right? And so all of these things. And then there needs to be a 30-minute spot in your day that is dedicated to creating your business, right? And if you reach that milestone alone, then with time, things will develop, right? Because time and attention really grow stuff. And in this case, it grows essentially your business. And now let me break it down. I'd love to break down a little bit how you will reach this milestone, right? Because it's fairly difficult. If you have ever attempted it, you may notice that it's fairly difficult to reach a point where you actually work on your business every day for 30 minutes, right? Especially if you have so many responsibilities, right? It feels like almost impossible to do. And then sometimes comes in another problem where you feel like, well, what is the one thing I need to be doing in those 30 minutes so that I'm successful the fastest? And, that question then, results in lots of playbooks being offered. People saying, hey, you have to do this, you have to do this, just book me, I'll tell you what to do, right? And so I'd love to share with you a little bit of my story here to just illustrate how this transition can happen for you. And with a transition, I don't mean you need to let go of your job, because many people who kind of create something on the side, their current employer or their current job essentially becomes their biggest client or their biggest supporter, right? Because sometimes there's a fear behind it. Oh, I will leave my work behind. But that's usually not what happens. Like normally people actually who do something on the side, they gain more perspective, they gain more skill, and your employer actually would benefit from you doing this, because essentially you will have more resources that then also, the company who has hired you benefits from. So win-win situation all around. Now let's get into it. What's the actual trouble? There is trouble because it is really not too easy to dedicate 30 minutes a day. And here is the reason why. The reason why is because we have essentially two problems here. The first problem we have is discipline to take care of our mind in a way that we don't, just lays all day on the sofa, because that's a very enticing thing to do, right? Laying in bed or on the sofa and just doing nothing, consuming stuff all the time, right? Consuming content, scrolling on our phone, basically, right? And sometimes we do that. So sometimes we take those 30 minutes where we say, "Oh, those 30 minutes, I will work on my business." And then what do? We take our phone and then we scroll and then we scroll and then we watch some other stuff and we consume all the stuff, and we convince ourselves, we tell ourselves, I was researching the market in those 30 minutes and I was researching what other people are doing. The fun thing is, with those 30 minutes that you invest in your business, you need to invest them creating something, not consuming. Okay, those are two opposite poles, right? Consuming has its place. You get inspiration, learning new stuff from it sometimes, but not always. But your business requires creation, right? So it requires 30 minutes of focused attention on you creating something. Just like me right now, I'm creating this video, right? With very low production value, as you can tell. I'm just sitting here at my office. There's like some light that shines at me, and maybe you'll get bored because there's not enough jump cuts, or there's not enough stuff like B-rolls of cool people laughing and celebrating the hilariousness of what I'm currently doing. So your attention, is so difficult to hold the attention on this one person talking. You often will need some sort of entertainment that really makes you excited. But actually, I don't need you to be excited, because you already have a goal of creating something that you're passionate about, right? That can be a project, that can be a legacy, some sort of business, some sort of adventure, something that actually lasts, right? And sometimes often also pays well, because when you create something that has value, then you actually get paid for it, right? And so there's lots of freedom in that creation process. Okay, so the first problem here is you essentially are consuming all the time, right? And you need to dedicate 30 minutes of just creating for your business, right? Okay, let's start with that. We create for our business. So far, so good. There's the thing that I help my clients with most of the time here is, first of all, we create time. Because for most of you guys, the second and most biggest trouble actually is you don't have time. Or at least you've told yourself the story of you don't have time. And that is understandable, right? If the pretext is, well, I have one project, I have a family, I have maybe small kids to, take care of. I have to look at how I treat my wife and what's happening with her, or my husband and what's happening there. All right. And so then you have the job where you have to handle all the other issues that are crazy. So this is super normal. All right. So this is really what's basically happening for most people in demanding environments and jobs. Right. This is fairly normal. But the thing is that you do have time, right? And I will prove to you that you do have time, actually. And it's your job and responsibility to create time, because everyone has the same amount of time. And it is possible. Other people have done it before. They have created their lives and stuff, and they haven't gone crazy, and they haven't worked Saturdays and Sundays, and, they haven't worked nonstop. They have done this, right? I have done this too, actually. I was at the same spot, right? I was basically working quite a bit, and then at some point I started carving out the small thing on the side that I started doing, and over time it kind of grew, and I didn't have any anxiety about how quickly it has to grow, and it started working. And so I tell you, this is the core skill here, right? Creating time, creating anything really, but first we create time. And so time, how do we create time? We create time with, first of all, our calendar. Most of you guys will probably follow your calendar. And so you want to actually block out something on your calendar, right? So block out a space where you actually work on your business. Now, to be frank, this hasn't always worked for me. Sometimes when I have this slot inside where I block in 30 minutes on my calendar, I just don't follow it. I wake up and the next day I think, no, today, let's make it tomorrow, right? Today I really don't feel like it. Let's make it happen tomorrow. Okay, so this is normal, right? This also happens fairly frequently, that our mind convinces us otherwise, goes back into lazy mode, and we start consuming everything again. And so, which is why, in order to create time, first, yes, you need your spot on the calendar, if you follow your calendar, right? Because that makes it very real. And you can start actually with just once a week, right? That's a fairly doable thing that your mind will likely not resist and actually do. Where you say, okay, 1 hour a week, I will do something from my business. I will create something. And I would invite you to actually create a conversation, right? So it doesn't matter what business you're having or what project you're thinking of, but reserve that 1 hour for a conversation with somebody you're excited to speak with, a potential client, somebody who could buy your service if you have that business, right? So for example, if you were a carpenter, you would, reserve that 1 hour to create a conversation with somebody who requires the service of a carpenter. And maybe you've heard of that person, and that'll be cool. Or if you're a consultant, you can solve a particular problem for people, right? Whether that is finances, or whether that is marketing, whether that is sales, whether that is technology, right? Or you have an advertising agency, or any other service, right? Communities, events, whatever it is. You reserve that 1 hour for that conversation with the person who's going to be interested to have a conversation about that stuff. Okay? And so you block that in your calendar. And now you have not only time created, yes, you created time for your business, but you also have created a small goal for your project, right? A small goal that says, I would love to actually fill this spot. Let me fill this one opportunity. Let me talk to one person who potentially is interested in actually doing business with me. And now here comes the fun thing. You don't know who's interested to do business with you. And in the beginning, your mind will tell you nobody. Yeah, they'll tell you nobody wants to do business with you. That's okay, because you can be completely fine nobody wanting to do business with you, right? So don't listen to your mind and just follow along the process, okay? And the process works the following way. First of all, right, before you actually go further, and let's say now you have this 1 hour, you have created it. 1 hour is not 30 minutes a day yet, so we haven't reached our milestone yet. But what do we do then? Like, how do we really fill this spot, right? And it's quite easy, actually, right, to say how to fill the spot is you simply invite people to have that conversation with you, who you believe could potentially help or would be interesting people to have a conversation with. And don't look at random people you have never met. Look at anyone you have met. Somebody who just, when they see your name, they would say, nice, let's have a conversation. And I want you to know, the conversation you're having with this person is not a conversation where you try to sell them whatever service you just made up. No, right? The conversation is where you just connect and you share with them where you're at in your business and what you're up to. And you also listen to them, what they're doing and what they're up to. And if you see any particular cross hole, anything that's kind of overlapping where they potentially can use your help or you could use their help, then you continue the conversation. If not, then you may know somebody who could help each other, right? In that case, you continue the conversation with that person. If you don't, that's okay, right? You don't have to have an outcome of this conversation. Just having a conversation with somebody is fine and good enough in itself. And also importantly, you don't have to sell anything on this conversation. And as the other person who's joining this conversation, you don't have to, accept or be so wary of being sold to, because damn, you can always say no even if somebody sells to you, regardless. So here you go, right? In the shortest amount of time, you have created a spot on your calendar. You have basically created 1 hour a week where you actually create something in your business. You've created time, you've created a conversation. And all of a sudden, your life becomes something where you are creating something consistently.